Hey everybody, this is Chris
This is Max.
from Northfield
High
High
School.
School, and you are listening to the Nighthawk Network. Today will be where we talk about world history for people who love history. We will discuss a very dangerous battle between the United States and the Soviet Union that also has to do a lot with the Cold War. It was called the Cuban Missile Crisis.
The Cuban Missile Crisis was a dangerous rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union that nearly brought the world to nuclear war. This had a lot to do with the Cold War because of the Soviet Union planting missiles in Cuba miles away from the mainland, and only being removed through the political negotiation. This created the nature of the Cold War and possibly even more damage than expected.
See, it all started on October 14th in 1962 when a spy plane was flying over Cuba and was taking pictures of the Soviet missile facility that was under construction. But the thing is, these missiles they weren't just any missiles. They were medium range weapons that could actually destroy tons of cities in only a matter of minutes.
And also, it affected millions of lives, and people in the U.S. and Cuba, they automatically felt the impact of this said crisis. And for people living in the US, this crisis made public anxiety as they all anticipated a nuclear attack coming. It got really bad to the point that they made a defense technique called the duck and cover, which is a method that is used in schools and many other, educational centers. And it's a method used when there's a possibility of a hurricane or a tornado. Government officials prepared for this expected war, and people in Cuba were really nervous.
On October 22nd, John F. Kennedy made the crisis public, making a speech about a quote-unquote quarantine of Cuba, which meant a stoppage from more Soviet unions from arriving. We will now play an excerpt from his speech.
To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated. All ships of any kind bound for Cuba, from whatever nation or port, will, if found to contain cargoes of offensive weapons, be turned back. This quarantine will be extended, if needed, to other types of cargo and carriers. We are not at this time, however, denying the necessities of life, as the Soviets attempted to do in their Berlin blockade of 1948.
What we think about this event is that we feel this event is something good to talk about because it definitely pushed limits of escalating tensions within creating terrible outcomes in the era of the nuclear war. This is important because it reminds people of the political solutions to military escalations.
And we feel that this is important for you guys to hear because this crisis was ultimately a clear example of how the world went to nuclear war and really showed that through negotiation and leaders, we were able to avoid disasters. All right. Well, that's our time today, folks. This is Chris,
This is Max.
and we'll see you next time on
On
Nighthawk
Nighthawk
Network.